like, like you said, common interest, but it's definitely different when you do it every day. And sometimes like, I don't actually want to, like, I love it, but sometimes I don't want to talk about it at every waking moment.
Right. Yeah. No, like I've said to people that doing this like for a living has made me so much less of a sports fan. Like I don't enjoy sports like I used to. And it sucks. But like it's the same thing when somebody wants to talk about it. It's like, yeah, me 10 years ago, I would love to have this conversation. Me right now, I'd rather do anything else.
I will say though, living around my way, it would be hard for me not to be a sports fan of the Philly team just because everyone I'm around is
right. Yeah, like I'm still a fan of my teams, but like I don't watch every game like I used to or anything.
Me neither. The Eagles, I do. If Washington was good, like real good, I think
I watch Washington. Yeah, I mean I watch football.
Football's different. I don't watch
but that's
every
like I'm at the
game.
bar. I'm at the bar anyway. Like the game's on.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and we know we're live. It's all good. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Stochastic.com NBA strategy show. What edition can I even call this? I mean, it's really I'm trying not to curse to open the show. Usually I wait a little bit for that. It's a shit show. There's no alternative to this. Every team's got notable guys on the injury report. Some teams coming off a front end of a back-to-back where, as Adam told me today, they only had 7 players by the time the game ended yesterday. A lot to get into, but today's show presented by Bet365. I'll tell you how you can get the best promo of your life if you're in 4 specific states later on. Also got a brand new promo with MLB coming up. You guys are going to love that. But first, more than anything, welcome. Happy to have you guys here to close out the work week. Well, for you, maybe, probably not for us. And hit that thumbs up as you walk in. We crushed it yesterday. We had like 170 likes, 200 likes by the 40-minute mark. The best I've seen here all year. So thank you for that. Subscribe to the channel. Leave a comment down below. We try and read and respond to all of them. And as you guys know, those of you listening in podcast form, you're not invisible to us. We know you're there. Leave a rating, review, subscribe to the pod, tell your friends about it. Let's get into this. So how you feeling, man? This is an insane slate.
Yeah, absolutely insane slate. And, you were saying it to me this, when I first joined the room, but there's going to be some spots where we can't really do much with it other than wait for more information. But there's a lot of injuries to talk about.
Yeah, there's a lot. Fanatics at LOL, you guys work an hour at a clip. Not true, but I'm not complaining either. Yeah, ton to get into here. And I think, as you just pointed out, one of the biggest factors to consider is if you're not watching the Deeper Dive and Live Before Lock tonight, like if you're not around, you probably shouldn't play tonight. I don't think that's insane. You probably, and that's goes for a lot of nights, but like on a night like tonight, you need to be around after lock as well throughout the night.
Yeah. I mean, most slates that's the case, but like definitely the slate.
Yeah, it's Joel Embiid questionable, Harden questionable, all of Charlotte. Who the hell knows what's going on there? DeMar DeRozan. We have a lot of guys that are already out, but across the board, there's a ton. But we'll get into all of this. Kyrie Irving, Tim Hardaway Jr. questionable, and we're just scratching the surface here, fellas. So let's dive into it. I'll spare the pleasantries because we're going to have to spend quite a bit of time here. Indy and Boston. Now, with that said, I think there will be certain spots where we're just going, all right, I don't really need to get to much. There's going to be injuries that open up hands down across the board. When it comes to Indy and when it comes to Boston, you're basically looking at a game where mostly everyone's healthy. Tyrese Halliburton's questionable. Chris Duarte's questionable. Everyone's good to go right now for Boston. We could start with Indy. If you want to tackle both of these at the same time, I don't think that's going to be a big issue here.
Yeah, I mean, and you're going to have to keep this in context for the whole show. Like, whenever you have a healthy team or relatively healthy team, unless you have some egregious mispricing, they're just going to naturally be secondary plays at best. And that's pretty much what we have here. We have Q-tag on Halliburton. That obviously matters. If he's out, it makes McConnell, Mathurin, Hield all look relatively better. But yeah, we got a O'Shea Brissett start last game too. He's up to 4,100. But those prices have adjusted at least somewhat as well. TJ McConnell actually on DraftKings has come down to 5,500. But that notwithstanding, you pretty much are going to have correct pricing here. Hield's actually cheap too. You're going to have pretty much correct pricing though. Even if Halliburton's out, like it's going to make those guys look better, but it's not going to make any of them look like, can't miss, have to have plays on this particular slate. If Halliburton's in, then obviously they all look even worse. Halliburton himself at 9,400 doesn't look like anything special. Miles Turner at 6,600 is fine, but there's going to be a million good center plays. So pretty much just a tournament team in Indiana. And the same can be said for Boston. They look more appealing right now than Indiana does. They look more similar probably to what Indiana would look like if Halliburton ends up sitting. But you have a good matchup for the Celtics. It's just that Jason Tatum's 10-7, Jaylen Brown's 9,200. Neither of those stand out as, particularly underpriced. They're just about where they should be. Smart at 5,500 is fine. Same goes for Brogdon or Derek White. But there's just no salary that looks great here when you consider that we're going to be getting to so many teams that are shorthanded and have just very clearly underpriced players.
Yeah, and we'll be getting to one of them shortly, but we got to talk about the San Antonio team first. And we're going to listen, if there are certain teams that just are unappealing right now, it's for really obvious reasons, guys. Like you just look at some of these teams, this doesn't mean that you have to, all your ownership, all your exposure has to go to just a couple teams. But like Adam said, some of these other ones are just going to be tournament plays where you're getting them at very low ownership, but they're not going to jump off the page. San Antonio, though, here's another spot where you have Jeremy Sohan, Romeo Langford are out. Okay, we know that. Zach Collins, Devin Vassell are questionable, and then Keldon Johnson, Trey Jones, and Devonta Graham are probable. So if we assume that Johnson, Jones, and Graham play, that means we're waiting on Vassell and we're waiting on Zach Collins. We already know that Sohan is out. So once again, this is kind of like you're in limbo here because maybe things open up in the event that Vassell ends up being out and Collins ends up being out. But if all of those guys end up playing today, then San Antonio actually doesn't look that good.
Right. Yeah. I mean, if we get a full strength San Antonio team, it's kind of nice because we're probably not going to need that value on this slate anyway. And it's just one less headache of a team to deal with. But we don't know if that's going to be the case because you do have that Q tag on Zach Collins. If he's out, you're probably getting another Mamu Kelashvili start at 4,800. He went nuts last slate in 25 minutes, which I absolutely did not need. But he's up to 4,800 here. He'd be fine if he starts. But again, there's going to be a bunch of really good centers. I wouldn't say he's a priority. If Zach Collins is in at 6,600, he looks good at no ownership in tournaments, but there's going to be a bunch of centers that look really good. But yeah, if Vassell and Collins are in, this is just another team where if you want to get to one of them here or there in a lineup, there's nothing wrong with that. You still get a ceiling from Vassell or Keldon Johnson or Zach Collins. But if they're all in, it's actually a San Antonio team that isn't overly appealing. And, right now with them projected in, we have Devin Vassell projected for the most ownership on DraftKings at 4.8%, 6.6% chance of being optimal, also the highest optimal percentage. So this team could end up being somewhat appealing, or it could just end up pretty much being a stay away.
Yeah, I mean, if Collins sits, Mamu Kelashvili would be viable, but I don't think he's going to shoot to the top of the ownership projections either, just given how much I already know for a fact that things are going to open up on this slate. Like that, there's zero doubt in my mind that all of these questionable players are going to be active today. That would be 1 in a million, especially this late in the season. So I could see him obviously getting more than, what is he at? Like 0% ownership. But I still don't think he'd be chalky. Do you?
Not really, because the price tag has come up and you're just going to have one, so much value on this slate, and two, so many centers.
Washington's a little different though. You have no Bradley Beal and no Kuzma, both of them already ruled out for this game. So that makes things mighty appealing if you're looking at somebody like Kristaps Porzingis. 284 minutes with these guys off the floor today or this year, 35% usage rate. You'll take that any day of the week. Fantasy points per minute, 1.5 for Porzingis. Just go down the board here, 15.5% rebound rate. Everything is going to look good for him. He even has close to a 20% assist rate with those guys off the floor in almost 300 minutes. I mean, ultimately, Porzingis at his price point with both of them ruled out. No surprise that he is extremely popular today. And I haven't even mentioned the fact yet that he's facing the San Antonio Spurs at home.
Right. You're getting as good a matchup as you're going to get. And then you're getting it without Beal and without Kuzma. You know, like he was disappointing last game from a fantasy standpoint, but you have to keep in mind he was in foul trouble and then the game blew out. So he only played 22 minutes. You had Wes Unseld Jr. decide to send Porzingis to the bench at the beginning of the second quarter because he picked up his third foul and then doesn't ends up playing 22 minutes because they get blown out. So a great coaching job there, but assuming that he's not in foul trouble, you're getting 34 minutes or so from Porzingis here. Washington is very quickly falling out of any sort of play in game contention. The minutes are going to be there. The production should be there. Still had 25 actual points in those 22 minutes last game. So getting tons of ownership here and deservedly so. 9K on DraftKings. You have Avdia at 5,900 pulling 35% ownership. That probably does come down as we get more injury information, but he is still going to look good here. Moved into the starting lineup, played 32 minutes, probably would have played around 34, 35 had that game been competitive. He's about a 0.9 to 1 fantasy point per minute guy. Great matchup for him as well. So he's going to look good. Monte Morris is fine at 4,900. I don't mind getting to some DeLon Wright at 4,100 at probably lower ownership. Once again, last game, they did not play DeLon Wright alongside Monte Morris. So that's interesting to note because earlier this year, you were seeing them share the floor, particularly before Morris's recent injury. And with Beal out, there's always a chance that you see them go back to that, but we didn't see it again last game. You saw Johnny Davis in the rotation. You saw Jordan Goodwin in the rotation. And so I assume that you're still getting limited, if any, minutes from Morris alongside Wright. So I wouldn't play them together, but they're both between 4 and 5K. They're both pulling some ownership. They're both, they both have paths to success here. Daniel Gafford's getting some ownership. He played 28 and a half minutes last game. Looked like he was going to close that one out. It's more difficult for Washington to close with Porzingis at the 5 when both Beal and Kuzma are out because they don't have enough good players to do it. So you get, increased likelihood of Gafford playing more minutes. He's only 4,700. There's a lot to like from this team.
Yeah. And again, they're facing the Spurs. It's pretty much an ideal situation for Porzingis and everyone else who benefits from no Kyle Kuzma and Bradley Beal. So like Porzingis has a 36% ownership right now, but he's still 30% optimal. Like you have Porzingis at 9K, 30% optimal right now in the boom bust tool. So yeah, really looks like a fantastic play. As you pointed out, no surprise that he's getting as much ownership as he is. Anything else for Washington, just since it's one of the most important teams on this slate? I think you hit on everything though.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't mention Goodwin or Kispert. They're both playable too. Kispert should play mid-30s, but he's up to 4,800. Goodwin's 3,800. Last game only played like 17 minutes, including garbage time. I don't think he's a particularly good play, but he is someone where like if they run a different rotation and he gets those Johnny Davis minutes, he would look good.
Yeah. How about Detroit though, man? By the way, Detroit, look at some of these spreads in the games that are coming up. First of all, Indy 12-point dogs. We already hit on that. Spurs 7.5-point dogs. Detroit 13.5. Houston 13. Charlotte 13.5. Utah 9. It's out of control. And yes, you expect this late in March, but we are there. We have arrived, my friends. This is that time of year where things are about to get messy. But how about I was talking to you the other day about Killian Hayes and Ivy, and we're talking about like how bad Hayes is as a shooter. Guy rips off like 15 points in the first 6 minutes of the game. It's just that's basketball. Sometimes he ended up shooting 7 for 17 and only finished with 21. But you're looking at another spot here where some guys are questionable, but essentially we should have a good idea. It's Bogdanovich, Magruder's out. Burks, Isaiah Stewart are out as well. Isaiah Livers is probable. So I think Detroit, even though there's a lot of red on their names, if you're clicking on DraftKings and seeing the injury report, this is still more straightforward than a lot of these other teams.
Yeah, it's one of the healthier teams. And we are getting Jalen Duren back. He's not on the injury report. So that's a negative for James Wiseman and Marvin Bagley. You got 41 minutes from Bagley last game. Not expecting that to happen again. this is another team that just isn't getting much ownership at all. In a tournament lineup here and there, if you land on Hayes or Ivy, whatever, that's fine. But there's really nothing that stands out from the Pistons.
No, and not a great spot. This is one of those teams where when they're healthy, relatively speaking, right? Like when they're healthy, when the guys that aren't just out the day before where prices haven't adjusted, all of the prices have adjusted to Bogdanovich being out and Stewart being out. There's nothing that you really benefit from there. And then Toronto on the other side. All right, so here's another interesting spot because this is a squad where if everybody plays, Scotty Barnes, Gary Harris, Precious Achiuwa, all questionable. If all of them play, then it's like, all right, maybe you get to a little Fred VanVleet, a little bit of Siakam, certainly have some blowout risk included there as well, which, factor that in if you'd like in a 13.5 point spread. But last game, remember I had mentioned, I was like, hey, if these guys sit, is it Will Barton that starts?
Yes, I distinctly remember all of the Will Barton.
Right, but also, I'm not saying that to pat myself on the back. What I'm saying is, what were you going to say?
No, I'm saying I remember it because then I jammed Will Barton and he scored 9 points.
Oh, I meant because I was asking you if you remember us discussing that is what I'm saying. Yeah. But I was thinking, do you think if Precious Achiuwa played, we could have seen like Nurse just go with another one of those odd jumbo lineups with like Pirtle, Siakam, and Achiuwa? Because Pirtle and Achiuwa have actually played like 70 minutes together or something since Pirtle came over.
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't shock me if they went that route. It would have earlier in the year, but after seeing how they've played things out this year, I mean, we have 53 minutes. So 64 minutes of Pirtle and Achiuwa together. Siakam's been out there for 53 of them.
I know. That's what I'm saying. Like the three of them have played a decent amount together. That's why I thought wouldn't be shocking. And then maybe Achiuwa just plays shorter rotations and he's yanked after like 5-minute rotations with those guys. But all I'm saying is if Achiuwa plays and Harris and Barnes are out, I wouldn't be shocked if we saw something like that. Like one of those.
No, neither would I. We've gotten 43 minutes of the 5-man VanVleet, Barnes, Siakam, Achiuwa, Pirtle lineup.
Right. And I don't know how many of those games have been with Barnes and oh wait, no, you said that Barnes was in that lineup?
Yeah.
Right. So like if Barnes and Harris are, what I'm saying is I have no idea what happens if one of these guys plays and the other one is like if Achiuwa is in, but Barnes and Gary Trent are out, does Achiuwa start? Maybe.
My expectation is if any of these guys are active, they are starting. If only one of them is active, they are starting. Right. Obviously, if all three are active, I don't.
Well, that's what I said. If Barnes or Trent, my expectation is one of them obviously starts.
Right. I think Achiuwa probably starts, especially because of how shitty Will Barton played in that game. He played 22 and a half minutes. He played like 17 in the first half.
5 in the second.
Right. Yeah. And he was horrible in the first half. I had a ton of him and it was like, all right, whatever. At least they're playing him starter minutes. And then they just scrapped that project in the second half. And you and I had talked about it that day where it was like, if he starts, what do you do with him? Because you know the chances for big minutes are going to be there. But it's not like he's just been buried on the bench, not getting opportunities this year. He's been one of the worst players in the NBA when he's played. That's why he was buried on Washington's bench. So it was a really tricky spot to deal with. And I think that it's likely that if Achiuwa is in, he's starting. Certainly if Trent or Barnes are in, they're starting.
I'll tell you what. Let's just say Barton starts. I don't think you're going to I think you can be relatively selective with what value you're going to get to today.
Barton starting today would be totally different than the other day. 100%. The other day he was $3,100 and there wasn't a ton of value on that slate. You ended up seeing him in the large field tournament on DraftKings get to like 43% ownership. Boucher got to 33%. Like that just speaks to how little, value there was relatively on that slate. Today he's more expensive. And like you said, you can also be more selective. I also wouldn't be shocked if all three of these guys are out, if they went to Malachi Flynn. That's who played a ton down the stretch for them. He didn't play at all in the first half, but he played 18 minutes in the second half. That's another candidate that could start. And if they went that route, he's only 3,400. He would look good.
All right. And Jacob, when you're throwing that up, feel free to throw the boom bust tool up there as well when we're going through some of that. Let people take a look. It's early in the day, but yeah. All right. So let me just wrap up Toronto because there's only so much we can do here. If everybody's in, what are you doing? And we can keep this quick.
If everybody is in, just taking some shots in tournaments, but nothing that really, stands out as being great. Van Vliet, Siakam, Pirtle, all fine. Anunoby or Barnes are fine, but nothing that looks very good. They really become appealing if anybody's out.
Right. But what if like Trent is out, but Precious Achiuwa and Scotty Barnes are in? I mean, that doesn't make a big difference.
It doesn't make a huge difference. It probably just means, more bench minutes for some combination of Flynn, Barton, Achiuwa, but I don't think it ends up being enough that I really want anything that I wouldn't already want.
Would you be on board with Achiuwa here if Barnes and Trent are out? And because Achiuwa is minimum salary, so
if he's starting, yeah.
I only ask because he probably still doesn't play. My expectation is he plays like probably only 22 minutes or something, even if he's a starter, but still he's minimum salary.
Yeah, and I mean we would have to see if there's some sort of like minutes limit too as a hamstring injury, but like if he's starting, I assume he's playing at least 20 to 22 minutes.
I guess this slate isn't as bad as I thought on the surface.
Oh, it is.
Well, hold on. Only no, because what I was thinking is it might take us 2 hours to get through this show, but it's not as bad from a conversational standpoint because there are going to be a lot of teams where you're just like, you don't need to get a lot of these guys.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's always like that on these bigger slates. Like there's teams you can kind of just not talk about a lot.
I mean, Houston and Memphis too. Here's another one. You got the Houston Rockets, 13-point dogs against Memphis, who recently got John Morant back, played well off the bench. We'll see what his minutes limitation, if any, looks like today, if he's back as a starter. But we'll start with Houston here. You and I have been high on Houston for tournament purposes recently. Is this a spot where maybe we decide that we pivot away from that approach today? Or are you going back to the well here with the Rockets?
I mean, it's kind of the same thing with Houston that we talked about the other day, where if the game's competitive, you're getting big minutes from them. It's not a great spot. You still have pretty decent price tags on Şengün and Green in particular. $7K for Şengün, 73 for Green. Kevin Porter still certainly has a high ceiling, as do Smith and Martin. But I think it's just another tournament team where this team is essentially healthy. It's not a great matchup. They're 13-point dogs on the road at Memphis, but if they hang in this game, they're playing a lot of minutes. And so there is upside there. We saw 255 points in this matchup in regulation last game. You ended up getting 37 minutes from Jalen Green, 34 from Porter, 32 from Şengün, 39 from Kenyon Martin, 31 from Jabari. So there's plenty of upside. It's just that nothing really stands out.
Memphis is intriguing for one reason to me today. So we don't know anything yet, but John Morant, he's a young guy. He's a young player, right? We know that. He doesn't need a ton of time to get back from a conditioning perspective. Played 24 minutes last game. No worse for wear. Shook the rust off pretty easily. They get that win against this same Houston team. Played 24 minutes off the bench. His ownership's at 1% right now because we just have no idea. But Adam, if Jenkins is like, hey, he's going to start today and he's unleashed. There's no limitations. 8,900 is absurd.
Yeah, if he starts, he's interesting because if he starts, like you said, he played 24 minutes his first game back. He wasn't out that long and he wasn't hurt.
Right. And he's young. This isn't a 35-year-old dude coming back from like a 10-game absence.
Right. Yeah, it's like I think they're probably going to be relatively cautious with him. Like they're very unlikely to catch Denver. They're 2 games up on Sacramento for the 2 seed. I don't think they're gonna. And Taylor Jenkins is typically cautious in general. Like he just doesn't run his guys into the ground. But if Morant starts after playing 24 minutes last game, I'd be expecting him to play at least 28 to 30 minutes here, if not more. And he's much less expensive than he typically would be in a spot against Houston. I mean, if all the suspension stuff didn't happen, he's like 10-1, 10-2 in this spot. So if you get him
he was 10-3 before the game before the suspension.
Right. So if you get him just in the starting lineup, I don't even need them to explicitly say he's not going to be limited. If he's starting, I'm expecting at least 28 to 30 minutes, and that salary discount is enough for me to be willing to take the chance that it's the low end of that.
Right. Well, exactly. So if it is the high end, you're just getting phenomenal value there.
Right.
Yeah. Do you want to hit on anything else from the Grizzlies?
Still a good matchup for everybody. I mean, Jaren Jackson, Desmond Bane both still look fine. Desmond Bane, interestingly enough, has actually been basically the same fantasy point per minute guy with Morant as without him this year. Jaren Jackson still getting those backup center minutes, which is nice. Still gives you a very high ceiling there, but pretty much correct pricing outside of Morant if he starts. Great matchup, but another just tournament team. If you are landing on some Brooks, Bane, Jackson, any of that's fine, but they're just not priorities because you're going to have so many teams that are shorthanded tonight.
All right. Well, the next game up is Charlotte, and this is where it gets out of control. So let me take a second and just let all of you know. If you are in, and we got about 450 people watching with us. By the way, shout out to everybody. North of 100 likes. Appreciate you. It goes a long way. You have atoned for your sins. If you are in the states of Colorado, Virginia, New Jersey, or Ohio, Bet365 has a promo right now, and it's coming to PA soon, so I am excited. Promo right now where you deposit $10 and bet one of those dollars, you're getting $365 in bet credits. Even if you aren't big into betting, you should be. You should have joined our chalkboard already, which is free. All the picks, all the conversation, the community, link down there in the description as well. Please join. It's been a lot of fun. We just hit over 500 subscribers in there, and we just started it last week. So shout out to all of you who helped us from the beginning and still are in there hanging out. Even if you aren't big into betting, why pass up an opportunity to take this and turn it into a significant bankroll? Like, essentially anywhere, look at it as an investment opportunity, right? We already have all the tools over at Stochastic. You already have the free chalkboard with picks in there every day. You're talking about $1 into $365. It takes a minute to sign up. Say 2 minutes. I'll be generous, right? You click the link in the description, the one that Jacob just threw in the chat, either one. You click that if you're in one of those 4 states, and I know some of you out there are, right? You're on the fence about this. No reason to be. It's a no-brainer promo. You click that, takes 2 minutes to sign up, right? And then you're talking about depositing 10, taking a 10% of that, $1, and putting that on anything. The bet doesn't need to win, doesn't even need to settle before you're getting $365 in bet credits. It's just ridiculous. So check it out. That's essentially, if it takes 2 minutes to do all that, you're making it's $182.50 a minute just by sitting down, taking 2 minutes out of your day. And here's the worst case scenario. Here's your downside in this. You lose all $365 in those bonus bets. At the end of the day, you're down $1. That is your downside. Never losing sleep over something. You're only losing sleep if you don't do it. But check it out. Colorado, Ohio, New Jersey, and Virginia. You guys got this promo opportunity. Who knows how long it's here for? Link in the description and in chat. And also, must be 21 years or older to gamble. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem, please call. Text 1-800-GAMBLER. Fucking nailed it. All right, let's go Charlotte. How much can we even talk about Charlotte right now after what we saw yesterday, where Dennis Smith Jr. left mid-game, Terry Rozier left, Kelly Oubre left, Mark Williams, I'm assuming that he's out. But it's an absolute mess right now with the Charlotte Hornets, where value could open up immensely depending on who's in or out.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot we can say until we get an injury report. Using yesterday's injury report, James Bouknight was in the G League. Theo Maledon was in the G League. They could recall those guys. But if the guys who were out yesterday are out, and if the players who left yesterday's game early are out, and if Charlotte does recall Bouknight and Maledon, then they have 9 active players. If they don't get those guys back, then you're down to 8 or 7. Obviously, 7 would mean they have to dress somebody and not play them. This team could, if everybody's back, they are relatively interesting, I guess, but nothing would really stand out too much. But this team certainly has the potential to just have 7, 8 bodies, and you just kind of have to be playing them because they're going to play huge minutes. But we don't know. We won't know until we get that injury report.
I don't even know how much it's worth speculating right now because it could be, you know what I mean? It could
be, I really don't think it is because it's you could just get, they're all good to go. And it's totally, but if we go through every single player, well, what if he's in and these guys are in, but what if he's in and those guys are out? It's going to take us 2 hours to do.
Exactly. Here's what I would say about Charlotte right now. as far as pending injury news goes, this is one of the most important spots on the slate.
100%.
Yeah, this and then the Embiid and Harden news, obviously important as well. Both of their top dogs. But this one, I don't want to just not cover this at all, Adam. So I'll put it to you like this. Look at all of the players look at the guys who aren't injured. So let's just say Smith, Terry Rozier, Oubre, and Williams are all out. Everybody else is sub 6K or bottom barrel minimum salary players. That's all you need to know.
Yeah, this has the potential to be. So I'll just say it in as far as if we were to just get a situation where like Oubre, Rozier are out, and then like everybody else is in, you're getting a bunch of good plays here. That's what we have projected right now. I don't know how we landed on Smith playing and the other two not, but that's regardless. Let's say that's the case. Dennis Smith Jr. at 5,200 would look good. Washington, Hayward, Richards all look good. Svi Mikhailuk potentially looks good at 3K. He started the second half last game. But then if you get Dennis Smith Jr. out, you have, obviously Washington, Hayward, Richards, in are guys you would normally play here, but the minutes are going to look really good for them. But then you have a 3K Mikhailuk. You have a $3,100 McGowan's. You have a $3,200 JT Thor, potentially a 3K Book Knight and or Teo Maledon if they get recalled. You just get a team full of 3K guys that don't have enough bodies to play. They have to play a lot of minutes. It's basically what we were getting with Miami earlier in the year when they were down to 7 or 8 guys. Exactly.
Right. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Kaysen said that he that is fun. He said, I did it yesterday, talking about Bet365 on a $1 bet on a random game. I have 383 in my account now. So yeah, that's a lot of free bets they gave for once. Not a BS scam. Yes, but we would never promote us, dude. We're a legitimate company here, man. We're not out there trying to put one over anybody's head. Yeah, of course it's legit, man. Yes. It legally operates in those states, Tolga said the Bet365 app is pretty dope. I can't play on it, but yes, he's in Virginia, but when I can, I will. But yeah, no, it's legit, and they do these type of promos because what better way to get somebody's business, right? Be practical. What better way to get your business to come check out their site than to be like, we're going to give you a better promo than literally anyone else, and we're going to double that. And it works. All right. Flip to the other side of this one with Dallas. Still some question marks here. You have Kyrie Irving questionable. You have Tim Hardaway Jr. questionable. If Irving is out, do you see yourself getting, because Doncic is projected at only 2% ownership right now. Do you see yourself getting to a decent amount of Doncic, or is this slate just so loaded that he would just be another one of the quality top tier options?
No, I think I'll get a good amount if Kyrie is out, because you're going to have plenty of value that allows you to get to Luka, and it is a good matchup, and potentially even better if he's playing, Charlotte's G League team essentially. So if Kyrie is out, Luka's going to look really good. If Kyrie's in, you can still play Luka, especially if value breaks where you just have a bunch of 3K guys everywhere, because he's still going to be one of the top projected players even if Kyrie's in. But if Kyrie is out, it certainly makes Luka look a lot better, and I'd be a lot more likely to get to a lot of him.
Right now, Dallas just looks terrible, though.
Yeah, I mean, with Kyrie projected in, they look pretty bad, because if Kyrie is in, it lowers Luka's projection. So he still looks okay, but nothing great. It's tough to play Kyrie with Luka in. If Kyrie is in, you're probably not getting a bunch of playing time from Christian Wood. He played 24 and a half minutes last game, but his price tags also come up. It makes Josh Green not look as good. It makes Jaden Hardy not look as good. It makes Tim Hardaway not look as good. If you get Kyrie and Hardaway out, it opens up a bit more. It makes Luka look better. Josh Green looks a little bit better. Christian Wood looks a little bit better. Jaden Hardy had a massive game last time out. I don't plan on chasing that. His salary increased to 5,600. He still only played 25 minutes in that game, but certainly looks better than he would if Irving and Hardaway are in.
How about this Milwaukee team if we keep this rolling here? Milwaukee, 9-point favorites against Utah. You want to get into the weeds here? Utah's missing Lauri Markkanen, Jordan Clarkson, Colin Sexton, and Rudy Gay, all four of them out. Middleton and Crowder are out for Milwaukee. Drew Holiday looks pretty interesting today. The price has come down considerably since he was like well north of 8K. And you're taking Middleton off the floor. This isn't to say that Giannis is still playing. So there's that. But what do you make of Drew Holiday at a low 7K price point today against this Jazz team that's kind of gutted by injuries?
Yeah, I like that price tag a lot. Drew's salary basically just probably overcorrected for Giannis and Middleton being healthy, and then that coincided with Middleton also being out. So very, very good price tag for Drew, assuming he's giving you around 34 minutes. You get a bump in production not playing with Middleton. Like you said, Giannis is still there, so it's not one of those games where it's just Drew Holiday running the entire offense. But 7,200 in this spot is very, very appealing.
Very appealing. What about Giannis?
I think he looks really good as well. Less opportunity cost for him than Luka because he does have MPE and he's not a point guard. Also a little bit cheaper on DraftKings at 11.5. So like if Kyrie is in, I think you're clearly prioritizing Giannis over Luka. Not to say you can't play Luka, as a pivot in tournaments, but Giannis is going to be the one that looks better. If Kyrie is out, then they become more comparable. But good matchup for Giannis. You do have good rim protection on Utah, but it's overall not a good defensive team. It's still Giannis. I'm not ever really concerned about the matchup. Certainly not here. So still very happy to get to him. And he also, looks a bit better without Middleton.
Yeah. The rest of Milwaukee, I mean, kind of unappealing. Is there anyone else you want to talk about for the Bucks before we move on?
Yeah, I actually think the rest of the Bucks are kind of interesting in tournaments as well. Bobby Portis is only 5,600. We haven't been seeing a lot of playing time from him recently, but Middleton being out does open up more minutes. I wouldn't be surprised if you see a little bit more Portis. And then you also have a Utah team that is playing Kelly Olynyk alongside Walker Kessler. So kind of sets up to play Bobby Portis alongside Brook Lopez a bit. So I think at 5,600 and 2% owned, I don't mind taking some shots at that. Lopez, at 7K, I think is pretty much correctly priced. Grayson Allen's getting some ownership at 4K. I expect him to play around 30 minutes in a good spot. So clearly getting to Giannis and Drew are the priorities, but I think Grayson Allen and Bobby Portis are actually pretty interesting too. And you could get Javon Carter in the starting lineup at 3,300 as well.
Yeah, that's actually possible. You're right.
Yeah, I mean, with Carter, keep in mind, he is a totally different player when he's playing alongside Drew and Giannis than he is when he's replacing Drew and Middleton's also out.
Yeah.
But still, 3,300 would be at least worth considering. Now, on this particular slate, he's probably just going to get buried by other better value.
Man, how about this Utah team today, though? No Lauri Markkanen, no Jordan Clarkson, no Colin Sexton. Even Rudy Gay, who could have provided some depth, is out. This is, you're going to see a decent amount of Chris Dunn, even with an elevated price point. I was looking to it at Kelly Olynyk. Dude, have you seen his assist opportunities with these guys off the floor? In many instances, he's been their primary playmaker, which was pretty crazy. Like Kelly Olynyk was doing a lot of everything lately.
Yeah, I mean, he's one of the only guys on this team that actually can.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, he's
only played 2 games this year where both Clarkson and Markkanen have been out, but he has a 24.3% assist percentage in those 2 games,
which isn't bad for a big. Yeah. No. Look at some of the last few games he's played. 13, 13, and 6, 19, 10, and 8. 3 straight double-doubles. One of those games without Lauri Markkanen. 8 assists, 19 points, 10 boards. I don't want to get ahead of myself here. I'm not saying you go and lock Kelly Olynyk in, but to me, it does look like an interesting tournament play, at least, just given the fact that you're talking about a guy who, first of all, slight positive leverage, mid 6K price point. He's played 31 minutes in back-to-back games, and we've seen spots where Kelly Olynyk does start knocking down shots. Of course, he's, sometimes less likely to happen if there aren't quality players around him, but I don't know. From what I'm seeing as a playmaker, rebounder without Markkanen, no less, and someone that can get hot from beyond the arc, in tournaments, he intrigues me a little bit.
Yeah, the only thing I don't like is that he is relatively expensive, but the opportunities should be there for him. He's played 541 minutes lost it. He's played 200 minutes this year without Clarkson or Markkanen on the floor. He has about a 20% assist percentage. He's averaged a little over a fantasy point per minute. If you just take that fantasy point per minute and assume he's playing like 30 to 32 minutes, you're not really excited about that, at 6,600. But the one thing that is sort of interesting to me is that in those 200 minutes, he still has a usage rate below 20%. And it's 17.3%. Like, there is obviously room for that usage rate to come up. Now, if it does, it probably means the 20% assist percentage is coming down a bit as well. But when you think about who's on this team and who can really play offensively, Kelly Olynyk's one of the only guys that has any semblance of offensive game. So I do think that there's some volatility here with it only being a 200-minute sample, where maybe as the sample size grows, he does take on a bigger role as a scorer as well. But I don't love the salary. I do love I am intrigued, I guess, by the upside, like you're saying.
Yeah, that's all it is. That's all. Because we've seen those type of and who knows, maybe he ends up playing more than 30 minutes today. Just wanted to throw it out there as a 10-game slate, low owned play at 7% right now. How do you want to approach the guys that are getting ownership today?
So it makes everybody else look better as well. Chris Dunn, 5,500, pulling 20% ownership. He's only played 111 minutes without those guys on the floor, but he does have a 25% usage rate. He's averaged 1.5 DraftKings points per minute. I'm not reading too much into the fantasy points per minute because he shot 67.7% true shooting, but 38.7% assist percentage to go along with the 25% usage rate. He's been massively involved. And typically Utah doesn't like playing him and Talen Horton-Tucker alongside each other. And when they're relatively healthy, when Clarkson's out but Markkanen's in, that can make it difficult for Dunn to get enough minutes that you want to play him at this salary. But when both Markkanen and Clarkson are out, it does open the door for them to play alongside each other a bit more. And last game, even with Markkanen in, the closing lineup for Utah had both Talen Horton-Tucker and Chris Dunn. So I think that you are likely to get at least a few minutes of them alongside each other here. Makes $5,500 Dunn look pretty good. I'm intrigued by $7,200 Horton-Tucker at 2% ownership as well. I think the price tag is pretty expensive, but we saw him in foul trouble a couple games ago when Markkanen was out, so you can't read into his lack of playing time in that one. If he avoids foul trouble here, he's likely giving you 30 to 32 minutes. He's got a 26% usage rate and a 27% assist percentage without Clarkson or Markkanen on the floor, 1.14 DraftKings points per minute. I think you get to Dunn first because he is nearly $2,000 cheaper, but Horton-Tucker definitely gives you a ceiling there as well. If you want to get to some Walker Kessler, that's fine. Toscano Anderson's pulling 31% ownership, which seems kind of weird. But like, there are minutes available. I just don't totally get that ownership. Fontecchio at 4,400, Agbaji at 5,100, both look okay as well.
So who do you prioritize for Utah?
Chris Dunn.
Okay.
I think that, I don't know. It's right now the ownership is just, it seems high on pretty much everybody.
It kind of does.
But It's also just so difficult right now because as other value opens up, it's going to pull ownership away from Utah.
Let's move on then. Philly and Golden State. By the way, almost at 150 likes. Appreciate you guys doing big things today. 513 people watching. Yeah, you got to do this if we're going to attack a slate like this. And then we moved to the Philadelphia 76ers. 5.5-point dogs today. They're 235 total game. But Joel Embiid and James Harden are both questionable. We had that odd situation, excuse me, with Embiid last game where he just never came out of the locker room at halftime, dealt with a calf injury. Then you got the Achilles soreness for Harden, and he's questionable. I mean, if both of these guys don't play today, then that locks us into a situation, right, where Maxey at 7K, Melton, probably some Paul Reed too. I don't know what Doc's going to do. Doc hates Paul Reed, but point being, he really does. Like, he should start him, probably won't. He'll probably get into foul trouble. But if both of those guys are out today, here's another team that we have to give a long, hard look at from a value perspective and from like a Maxey and Tobias Harris standpoint.
Yeah, exactly. So I saw an interesting theory on Twitter the other day. Do you think our boy Morey is just resting James Harden to try and get Embiid the MVP, or do you think Harden's actually hurt?
No, because I don't think Harden being out makes any difference whether or not Embiid. I think Harden being in helps Embiid get the MVP. Unless you're saying like take him out so people can go, yeah, they kept winning games without Harden.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Because from a statistical standpoint, doesn't matter who's out there with Embiid. He's still going to have like a 40% usage rate.
Right. And from a winning standpoint, they got really good when Harden came back. obviously.
Right. So no,
like,
I think that would be insane.
Yeah, no, like I didn't actually think it. I just kind of laughed when I saw it. Somebody tweeted like Daryl Morey angle shooting Embiid to the MVP. But no, I mean it's another team where like we just need more information. They did say after the last game that Embiid was expected to play today, and then they listed him as questionable.
Right.
So I am assuming it's the typical Joel Embiid questionable, but I have no idea.
I think he plays just because of what you said. Unless it's serious, he's gunning for that MVP.
Right. Yeah, like we know that this matters to him. It matters to the team. It matters to their delusional fan base. So
hold on. I said to someone the other day, I think fans getting excited about an MVP is the dumbest thing ever, because guess what, dude? At the end of the year, if Philly gets knocked out in the second round again, nobody's going to care or remember that Joel Embiid got the regular season MVP.
Also, Philly fans are going to talk shit about Joel Embiid for losing in the second round.
Right. That's why I'm saying it's a point. The only way it matters is if he gets. How about get us the Finals MVP? Then we can talk.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I get, especially with Embiid, like he has a cool relationship with the city and all that. Like you're happy for the guy, but let's not pretend like Philly fans aren't going to turn their back on him the second he fails in the postseason.
Yeah, it's not just Philly, man. A lot of other places.
Yeah, I know. But know Philly's going to do it.
Oh, yeah, of course. But if you're talking about delusional fans, it's any fan base that cares enough about the MVP and is just like, well, Jokic MVP. And when someone goes, yeah, but you guys haven't made it to the finals. Yeah, but the MVP, who cares? That's great for Jokic and his family, but it does nothing for me as a fan. That's all I'm saying.
Oh, yeah, for sure. The only reason I argue it is just because I disagree so strongly with the Philly people that always bring up Embiid winning. But like if they're both in, I don't like much at all here, because you do have an 11-8 Embiid on a slate where you have Luka potentially without Kyrie, and you do have Giannis without Middleton. If Harden's out, Embiid looks very good at 11-8. If Embiid's out and Harden's in, Harden looks good. If they're both out, Maxey looks great at 7K. Harris looks good at 6,200. Reed at 4,100 would look good. Harrell's up to 5,500. That one gets tough. Melton looks better if Harden's out, but he is up to 6K. If one or both guys are out, there's a lot to like. If they're both in, I don't really like much of anything outside of like, obviously, if you play Harden or Embiid, that's fine.
Man, but if Embiid sits, Maxey and Harden look really good.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just taking that. What is his usage rate this season? I haven't looked in a while. It's got to be close to 40 still, right?
What, Harden without Embiid?
No, Embiid's usage rate just on the season. It's got to be. It's 30. It's over 37%.
Yeah, that's insane.
Massive. To hold a usage rate above 30% all year is impressive, but like 37% to close out the season is nuts.
Yeah, 39% in the 13 games he's played without Harden.
What's Harden's usage rate without him in the games he's played without Embiid?
Also, by the way, in the 13 games without Harden, 38.6% assist percentage for Joel Embiid.
That's incredible. That's impressive. I did not expect that.
Yeah, I did a double take just now when I saw that one.
37 to 39% is, in my opinion, just kind of whatever. Like he's going to shoot no matter what.
For Harden in the games, he's played 7 games with no Embiid, 27.7% usage rate.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
Which is lower than I expected. 37.7% assist percentage.
It's not that much lower than I expected, only because I bet Maxey's usage rate is way higher. Like I bet Maxey sees the biggest spike of anybody.
Yeah, I think he kind of guns, and you have Harden getting the assist.
Yeah.
Harden
has like a 45% assist rate in this.
26.3% for Maxey, 23.6% usage.
Okay. But it's probably 20% with or something like with.
And then guys. Harris at 20.8%, but that's like still 5 points higher than Harris normally runs.
Exactly. Yeah. Some of those. Yeah. So that could be a really interesting team if Joel Embiid sits. It wouldn't shock me, because you could have just had Embiid be like, I'm playing next game. And they go, no, you're actually not good. You're not good to go. Don't do this. But we'll see. Anybody else do? Actually, I think we discussed that plenty. What about Golden State? Only news here is Andrew Wiggins still out.
Yeah, Golden State, kind of just another one of those teams. Clearly not going to tell anybody not to play Steph Curry or Klay Thompson. They're projected to go a little bit under-owned here. Klay's down to 6,700. You still have Curry sub 10K, but they're just really tough to get to given how much value we're likely to have and how easy that's going to make it to get to the top tier of guys, whether that's Luka, Embiid, Giannis, whatever. Draymond at 6K, the only guy pulling double-digit ownership here. Not excited to get there, but again, just slots in easily, giving you 32 minutes or so. That ownership will come down to as we just get more bottom of the barrel value.
All right. Well, Phoenix is still missing Durant, and DeAndre Ayton's out as well. I see that Jock Landale's getting some ownership here. I know Bismack Biyombo got into some early foul trouble in that last game. Landale played, 20 minutes? Hey, can I just ignore Phoenix today, please?
I mean, the problem is it's a great matchup, too.
It's such a good spot. I know.
But it is just another, I think, secondary team. Devin Booker pulling 9% ownership, 9% chance of being optimal. He's $9,600. Looks fine. If Embiid's out and Harden's in, obviously Booker looks relatively worse because he's at the same salary as Harden, and Harden's going to look great. Chris Paul at 7,500 pulling 11%. Totally fine with that. Landale pulling 10% at 3,700. Biyombo's up to 4,900. I don't really want to get to either center here just because there is going to be plenty of value and I don't have to use a center position for it. But, if you land on them a little bit, that's fine. But Booker and Paul would be the two that I'm most interested in getting to just because it is a really good matchup. They are getting modest ownership because there are so many other good spots on the slate.
We've talked about it a lot lately, like without Kevin Durant. Booker's the most intriguing because he's in a price point that just makes him usually not popular. Because you could just go cheaper to some of those like high 8K guys, or you go up into the top tier. And Booker oftentimes tends to get overlooked. And sure, he's not like Booker's the type of guy that once in a while he pops off for a 50, 60 point real game, just something insane. And you wish you had him. You make a good point. Against Sacramento, just in a fast paced environment, high total. What's this total sitting at? 240 right now. Yeah. That is interesting, at least. And Chris Paul could have a nice little outing as well. But I'd prefer to avoid the center rotation today. It just doesn't.
Yeah, highest total on the slate right now. It's just that you have two essentially healthy teams.
Right.
But that does just create the opportunity. I've talked about it a lot. The nice thing about when you get these like 8 to 10 game slates is that you get to play Devin Booker against the Kings as a contrarian play.
Yep. And it doesn't matter if Phoenix is healthy, not including Durant. When you're talking about a guy like Booker, because
he was going nuts with Durant. Like he's such a good shot maker that he's going to just have those games, like you said, where he scores more actual points than most people do fantasy points.
Exactly. Yeah. So I'm with you. That's an intriguing spot. 240 total. Sacramento. The only news we're waiting on here is Kevin Huerter. So the Kings have just been. Josh mentioned on Sunday during the strategy show that the Kings have been the healthiest team of the season. Like if you're taking the amount of minutes that starters have played together, no team has come even close to the Kings playing as many minutes together as they have. And that's naturally going to kind of force ownership down. I'll always throw Domantas Sabonis out there as a talking point just because this guy's been Jokic light recently. I won't even say poor man's Jokic because he's been really, really good. He's been Jokic light, double or triple doubles in what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of his last 10, and the other ones are like an assist off or whatever. He's just been remarkable.
Yeah, and he's playing huge minutes, and now he's going up against a Bismack Biyombo, Jock Landale front court. He looks really good. It's just, again, like you're going to have a bunch of good mid-range centers. You have a bunch of value elsewhere. You're going to probably just end up being in a lot of situations on this slate where you're like, oh, well, I like this lineup with Domantas Sabonis, or I can just move to this like 3K guy on Charlotte that's going to play 30 minutes and turn Sabonis into, Giannis or whoever, Luka. So that's kind of the problem. And that's why you're only getting 7% ownership, but he is projected to go a little bit under owned. He does still have the ability to just go get 65, 70 fantasy points and be somebody you have to have. So just like Booker, I like him as a contrarian play. Same goes for De'Aaron Fox at 8,300, no problem getting to either of those guys. Then you have a little bit of ownership coming into, Barnes, Monk, Lyles. Those guys, I think pretty much the ownership just disappears as we get confirmed value. But if Huerter ends up being out, it is good for Keegan Murray's playing time. He's 5,300 though. So again, like on a lot of slates, I'd be more interested in that Barnes, Monk, Lyles, Murray mix. But on this one, I think they're probably going to end up being pretty unappealing once you find out, exactly how much value we have.
All right. Let's keep this train moving here. Also, we got baseball coming back, right? What are we, 6 days away?
Something like that.
Reese Hoskins just went down with a nasty-looking non-contact knee injury on a routine ground ball.
Yeah, torn ACL.
Is it the ACL?
It was a torn something with
Brutal.
a CL. I don't remember what the first letter was.
Well, because MLB's coming back, we got something for you guys. And
torn ACL.
And not just new users, existing users as well. You can celebrate the return of the MLB season. 50% off monthly Stochastic Plus Platinum subscriptions. The full month, 50% off. Link is down below. Link is in chat. Not just baseball, every sport. We're talking Stochastic Plus Platinum. Every sport, every tool. So right now you've got PGA going, MMA, NASCAR, XFL, NBA still happening, MLB coming up in less than a week, NHL still going. There's more. Oh, March Madness is happening. You're getting access to all the projections, all the ownership for all of that, the top stack tools for all those sports, the boom bust tool, all the projected player stats, projected data, you name it, lineup generator, lineup builder. If you want to get the Fantasy Cruncher add-on for that, you can do it as well. And it's not just for new users. It's for existing users as well. So whether you're new or you're an existing user, we got you covered. We got you covered. The link is in the description, or use the promo code MLB is back, all one word. But if you use the link, it'll make your life a whole lot easier. You click that, you're in. You're talking 50% off everything, every sport, entire calendar month. You're getting the premium Discord as well. All of that stuff mixed in. Even if you don't know some of these sports well, it doesn't matter. That's why you have the tools. That's why you have the tutorials that we have on the site to teach you. Take some time, dig in, get into it, learn the tools, win some money, and stick around. But yeah, 50% off. It's from now through the 2nd of April. So only 1 week we're doing this for new and existing customers. All of it, 50% off. Not just baseball, not just basketball, every sport across the board. No better time right now, too, because if you've been on the fence, there's every sport happening outside of the NFL. Like every other sport is happening right now. Morning, afternoon, or night, you can get action in using the tools over at Stochastic. Use the link in the description or the one in chat. Come join us, man. Join the family, win some money, rock that Stochastic avatar, get up in the Hall of Fame, get another free month, get inducted, let us brag for you. I mean, it's just all one beautiful circle here. All right, let's keep it going. 2 games to go. Wrap this one up. We got Chicago and Portland. Chicago Bulls still waiting on this DeMar DeRozan news. Alex Caruso questionable as well. If Caruso plays, do you like him?
Caruso is in Alex?
What?
Do I like Alex Caruso on this slate? No, not particularly.
Okay, because I wasn't necessarily sure what this ownership was.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's just going to change.
Yeah, okay, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
Okay, so then most of Chicago, because we have DeRozan projected in right now, not looking like the best team.
Yeah, it's kind of just what we always talk about with Chicago. You're getting that ownership to Caruso, like you mentioned. He's fine if he plays as like a point per dollar value, but there's no way he ends up being a priority on this slate, I don't think. DeRozan, Vooch, Levine, all fine if you get there, but all also playing, or we assume DeRozan is questionable. But assuming that they all play, there's nothing that you're prioritizing there. If DeRozan were to sit, then it's going to make Levine look better. It's going to make Vooch look better. And you're going to be opening up some minutes for some combination of Williams, White, but they're also relatively expensive now.
Portland looks a little bit more intriguing, just given that Nurkic is questionable. Jeremy Grant and Anthony Simons are still out. So now you're just getting this, and Damian Lillard's probable. Now you're getting into a situation where if Nurkic sits, that just, I mean, things get, and Nasir Little's also questionable in this spot. But Watford was back in the starting lineup last game, Adam. He played 35 minutes. Here you go once again. Shaedon Sharpe played 40 minutes in the starting lineup last game.
Yeah, surprise start for him in place of Reddish, but played 40 minutes, played really, really well. I assume he's starting again today. Price tag did jump from 3,600 on DraftKings to 5,400.
Damn.
That's still decent, but it's probably more of a late slate play, just given that we expect to have so much value on this slate that, is in new injury situations as opposed to being priced up. But if he's starting, still decent upside there if he has the potential to play 40 minutes. Dame at 11K looks good, pulling 20% ownership. Coming into last slate was at 1.77 DraftKings points per minute without Grant or Simons on the floor this year. He's in that last game. He played 33 and a half minutes. Maybe you want to dial back the minutes projection a little bit. They did have those comments about not, him sort of taking it easy. I don't know if that meant going from 37 to 34, but still looks really good here. Decent, solid matchup, playing enough minutes, getting all of the offense running through him. If Nurkic is out, that's even more the case. If Nurkic is in at 6,500, he looks fine. He played 31 minutes last game, didn't close that game. They went with a very strange closing lineup.
I was real surprised by that.
Yeah. Ryan Arcidiacono, Damian Lillard, Ryan Arcidiacono, Shadon Sharp,
Kevin
Knox, and Trendon Watford was the closing lineup in that game. I have no idea.
And they ended up running away with it. I'm wondering if it's just because they build a lead, and
I think that's what it was. I don't even know how that lineup gets on the floor in the first place.
Either, but they went up. It was tied at the start of the fourth. Those guys come out there, and they had been out there, but they stay out there and they rack the lead up to a 12-point win. I think that's what
it was. Kevin Knox had a big fourth quarter. Sharp had a big fourth quarter. They just stayed with what they had other than bringing Watford back in and then obviously bringing Dame in. So I think my point that I was going to get at was if Nurkic plays, he got to 31 minutes last game and he didn't close. He played like 18 or 19 minutes in the first half. There's actually a chance you get like 32 minutes, 32, 33 minutes from him here if he plays. Watford looks fine, should play a bunch of minutes, but he is up to 6K, center only on DraftKings. If Nurkic sits, you're probably getting Drew Eubanks starting at 3,400 and giving you even more value.
Yeah. Imagine if Nurkic plays that type of minutes and then gets 35 minutes on the game. That would be massive. We do, by the way, have him with real nice positive leverage on this slate as well. In the boom bust tool, we have him 16% optimal at 10% owned. So that looks pretty good early in the day. All right. Ready to wrap this one up?
Yeah.
All right. I was sorting by leverage score, and we have a few guys just massively up there right now, but it's from Charlotte, so we really have no idea what's going on there. That's going to change. OKC, LA Lakers, Oklahoma City, just a healthy team right now. They don't have a single notable guy on the injury report for tonight, and I think that is going to make it so we don't have to spend a lot of time here for a 10-game slate where everyone else is injured.
Yeah, so keep in mind we don't have an injury report because they played yesterday.
Right. But I also assume that we would have heard something. Oh, yeah, because SGA on the second of a back-to-back.
Yeah, so Mark Dagnall did say that they are open to him playing back-to-backs now. He also only played like 26 minutes yesterday. My expectation is that he plays and they all play. You got 26 minutes from Giddey, 26 from Jalen Williams. 32 from the good Jalen Williams, 26 from the other Jalen Williams, who actually had a good game, 27 from SGA, 20 or 30 from Dort. I expect these guys all to play here. This game is big for OKC, but there is the chance that we get that injury report and it has names that we don't have right now. But assuming that they're all in, not much. I mean, late slate type stuff, sure. Like you're not going to be mad about getting to SGA or Williams or Giddey or Dort. They all look fine, but there's just so many other good plays on this slate.
Close it out with the Lakers here. And shout out to almost 600 of you watching. Tough ass, but we're 27 likes away from 200. Maybe there's a few of you out there who feel like being generous on a Friday morning, heading into the weekend. Want to take a single second to atone for your sins here. Wash yourselves clean. I get it. There we go. 174. We're 26 away. We'll see. We got one team to go. If we don't get there, that's fine, but appreciate you guys anyway. And remember, if you jumped in late, Bet365, Colorado, Virginia, New Jersey, and Ohio, $1 into $365. Use the link in the description and in chat. We also got the MLB's back promo, all sports, 50% off, new and existing customers. Links down there as well. You got any questions, hit me up on Twitter. My DMs are open. All right, Lakers. Anthony Davis. How much of him do you think is a good idea right now? Because he's actually getting 18%. It's not a bad matchup against OKC. He's reasonably priced. LeBron James still sidelined. I don't think you're going to be jamming in 40% of Davis like you might on some other smaller slates, but he still seems like a pretty good play.
Yeah, I think he's clearly a really good play. I'm a little surprised he's getting more than double the ownership of Domantas Sabonis at the same price point. They seem very comparable. They seem very comparable to me. This game does have a total 7 points lower than the Sacramento game. Not that that's, the end all be all of anything, but like you're getting similar playing time, similar production. You have 13 total games this year where Davis has played without LeBron and without Westbrook. 1.42 DraftKings points per minute in 35 minutes per game. The upside's clearly massive, but that's also the case for Sabonis. I don't know. I like Anthony Davis a lot here. I just also really like Sabonis. I think the ownership should be more similar there.
Yeah, absolutely. And Davis is, Davis playing alongside, Russell, I don't know what to make of this guy, by the way, right now. You would certainly think that D'Angelo Russell would be a little bit more predictable than he has been, but last game was fine. He's 7,400 today on DraftKings. He's going to play 34, 35 minutes in competitive games. I suppose that's a perfectly reasonable spot, but also lots could change if Harden is out. And then you have Maxey at 7,000. You have Drew Holiday without Middleton at 7,200. It's kind of a crowded area here at point guard where Russell resides today.
Yeah, Russell looks good at 7,400, but like you said, just a crowded position, crowded price point. Same goes for Austin Reeves, who I'm not going to get to him at 6,800, I don't think, but he has been playing huge minutes and just playing out of his mind. He's getting to the free throw line at a crazy rate. It is interesting. He's actually in the games he's played this year where LeBron and Westbrook have been out and Davis has been in. He's actually averaged a little over a fantasy point per minute in 13 games played, 20% usage rate, 25% assist percentage. It's just the price tag has, gotten up there, and it's so difficult on this slate to get to that price point. But with him in the starting lineup now playing big minutes, it wouldn't be crazy if he has another big game. I'm just not going to be able to get to it.
There we go. Not bad for a 10-game slate with a ton of injury news. Not bad. It's 11:08 on the East Coast. Say we did okay. Follow Adam at Ship My Money DFS. Me at Lafayette_D. Shout out to Jacob for producing this one. Deeper Dive live before lock coming up tonight, 5 and 6 p.m. The Odd Shop on the Odd Shopper channel. Don't miss that one. I think it's Eitan and Eric. Should be a fun show. That's at 4 o'clock if you got time heading into the 5 o'clock hour. And join our chalkboard. Link is down there. It's free. All the picks, talk, celebration, commiseration, all of that is free. Together, we're hanging out, building the community. Hey, take a second before you go back to work, whatever you're doing. Download the app. It's free, the Chalkboard app. Get in, say hello, and let us know that you're hanging out and you're joining the community. Let's make something of this. Till next time, though, we'll see you guys. And if we don't see you tonight, have a great weekend. Peace.